Maria Santos stood outside Admiral Douglas Kane's office door and took a deep breath. The metal corridors of the USS Valiant hummed with the constant vibration of the massive carrier's engines. She had been working on this project for 3 years, and today was the day she would finally present it to the Admiral. Her hands held a datapad containing what she believed could change everything about how humans fought in space. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Maria walked into the Admiral's office. The room was clean and organized with military precision. Models of famous human warships sat on shelves along the walls. Behind the Admiral's desk hung a large screen showing the current position of the Third Fleet. Admiral Kane sat behind his desk looking at reports on his computer. He was a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes that had seen many battles. "Lieutenant Commander Santos reporting as ordered, sir," Maria said as she stood at attention. Admiral Kane looked up from his computer and gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down, Santos. I understand you have something you want to show me." Maria sat down and activated her datapad. "Yes, sir. For the past 3 years, I have been developing a new missile guidance system. It combines artificial intelligence with human decision-making in ways we have never tried before." The Admiral leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "Go on." Maria's excitement grew as she began to explain her work. "Our current missile systems follow predictable patterns, sir. They use standard algorithms that any enemy can learn to counter. My system is different. It thinks like a human pilot but processes information like a computer. It can make choices that seem random but are actually based on human intuition." She turned her datapad toward the Admiral and showed him the test results. "In simulations against alien defensive systems, my missiles hit their targets 80% more often than standard guidance systems. The aliens cannot predict what the missiles will do because they think and react like humans do." Admiral Kane studied the data for several minutes. His face showed no emotion as he scrolled through the test results and technical specifications. Maria watched him carefully, hoping to see some sign of approval or interest. Finally, he set the datapad down on his desk and looked directly at her. "Santos, this is exactly the kind of thinking that makes me worried about young officers these days. You want to put unpredictable code into weapon systems that cost millions of credits each. You want to give missiles the ability to make their own decisions without following proper military protocols." Maria felt her heart sink, but she tried to defend her work. "Sir, the system has built-in safety measures. The missiles still follow basic targeting rules and will never attack friendly forces. The unpredictability only applies to how they approach enemy targets." "Unpredictability," the Admiral said sharply. "That is exactly the problem. Military operations succeed because of discipline, order, and following established procedures. What you are suggesting is chaos. You want to turn our weapons into loose cannons that might do anything. Sir, with respect, the alien forces we face are adapting to our standard tactics. The Zephyrian Alliance has been studying our attack patterns for years. Every battle we fight, they get better at defending against our weapons. We need something they cannot predict or counter." Admiral Kane stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. "Santos, I have been fighting aliens for 20 years. I have seen what happens when officers think they know better than established military doctrine. I have watched good ships and good people die because someone decided to try something new and clever in the middle of a battle." Maria stood up as well. "Sir, the simulations clearly show that my system works. We could save lives and win battles that we would otherwise lose." The Admiral turned around and his eyes were like ice. "Simulations are not real battles, Santos. In real combat, you need weapons and systems you can trust completely. You need to know exactly what your missiles will do when you fire them. Your system might work perfectly in a computer simulation, but what happens when it decides to do something unexpected in a real fight? Sir, the system learns from each engagement. It gets better at fighting specific enemy types. After a few battles against Zephyrian ships, it would know exactly how to defeat their defenses. Or it might decide to attack our own ships because it learned something wrong," Kane replied. "Or it might simply stop working when we need it most. Santos, you are a good officer and a talented programmer, but this idea is too dangerous to implement." Maria felt desperation growing in her chest. "Sir, please just let me run more tests. Let me prove that the system is safe and effective. The aliens are getting stronger and we need every advantage we can get." Admiral Kane walked back to his desk and sat down. He picked up a form from a stack of papers and began filling it out. "Santos, your tour as Chief Weapons Officer is hereby terminated. You are relieved of duty effective immediately." Report to Lieutenant Clark to transfer your responsibilities and clear out your office. Maria stared at him in shock. Sir, you cannot be serious. You are removing me from duty because I tried to develop better weapons. I am removing you from duty because you cannot follow orders and you think military protocol is something you can ignore when it suits you, Kane said without looking up from the form. Your replacement will arrive tomorrow. Until then, Lieutenant Clark will handle weapon systems. Admiral, please reconsider. The alien threat is growing every day. Long-range sensors are picking up increased activity in Zephyrian space. They are planning something big and we need every weapon we can get. Kane finished filling out the form and handed it to Maria. Your discharge papers will be processed within 48 hours. You can request transfer to another ship or accept assignment to a ground-based facility. This conversation is over, Santos. Maria took the form with shaking hands. 3 years of work destroyed in 15 minutes. She had known the Admiral was conservative, but she never thought he would react this strongly to her ideas. Sir, this is a mistake. You are making a terrible mistake. The only mistake was letting you work on unauthorized weapons projects for 3 years. Kane replied. You are dismissed, Santos. Maria turned and walked toward the door. As it slid open, she turned back one more time. Sir, when the aliens come with tactics we cannot counter, remember this conversation. She walked out into the corridor and the door closed behind her with a final sound. Other officers in the hallway looked at her with curious expressions. Word would spread quickly through the ship that the chief weapons officer had been relieved of duty. Maria walked slowly toward her office, knowing that her career was probably over. Lieutenant Ryan Clark was waiting for her when she arrived at the Weapons Control Center. He was a young officer with brown hair and honest eyes who had been her assistant for the past year. Commander, what happened? He asked when he saw her expression. I have been relieved of duty, Clark. You are in charge of weapons systems until my replacement arrives. Clark looked shocked. Ma'am, what did you do? I tried to give us better weapons and the Admiral decided that following protocol was more important than winning battles. Maria began gathering her personal items from her desk. Make sure you delete all files related to my guidance system project. The Admiral made it clear that he does not want any trace of it on ship systems. Ma'am, are you sure that is wise? What if we need those systems later? Maria stopped packing and looked at Clark carefully. He had helped her run many of the simulation tests, and he understood how effective her system could be. Clark, you need to follow orders. Delete the files and forget about the project. That is a direct order. Yes, ma'am, Clark said, but his voice sounded uncertain. As Maria finished packing her belongings, she noticed that the ship's alert status had changed to yellow. Something was happening, but she no longer had access to tactical information. Her career as a weapons officer was over just when humanity might need her skills the most. 300 alien ships moved through the darkness of space like a swarm of deadly insects. War Commander Thexnall stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The largest fleet the Zephyrian Alliance had ever assembled was finally ready to crush the human colonies once and for all. Thexnall was a Krulon warrior with dark-scaled skin and 4 arms that could move with deadly precision. His species had been fighting wars across the galaxy for thousands of years, before humans had even learned to make fire. The other 2 species in the Alliance, the Vorth and the Nexari, had their own reasons for hating humanity, but they all agreed that the human expansion into space had to be stopped. War, Commander, said Subleader Kethvar as he approached the command platform. All ships report ready for battle. The human fleet has been detected in the Tau Ceti system as predicted. Thexnall nodded and activated the fleet communication system. His voice reached every ship in the massive armada. Warriors of the Alliance, today we end the human threat forever. For too long, these primitives have spread across space like a disease. Today we cleanse the galaxy of their presence. The alien fleet had been studying human tactics for 5 years. Every battle, every skirmish had been recorded and analyzed. Human commanders were predictable creatures who followed the same patterns over and over again. They used the same formations, the same attack strategies, and the same weapon systems in every engagement. Thexnall had personally overseen the development of new defensive systems designed specifically to counter human weapons. The adaptive shield technology could learn from incoming missile attacks and adjust its frequencies to block future strikes. After the first few minutes of any battle, human missiles would become completely useless. Sub-Leader, what is the status of our intelligence on human fleet strength? Thexnall asked. Kethvar consulted his datapad. Long-range sensors confirm 80 human ships in defensive formation around the colony world. Admiral Douglas Kane commands from the carrier USS Valiant. Our intelligence files indicate he is a conservative commander who relies heavily on standard military doctrine. Perfect, Thexnell said with what humans would have called a smile. Kane is exactly the type of human commander we trained to defeat. He will follow his protocols exactly, and we will counter every move he makes. Meanwhile, in the Tau Ceti system, Admiral Kane stood in the command center of the USS Valiant and studied the tactical display with growing concern. Long-range sensors had detected the alien fleet moving toward their position, and the numbers were worse than anyone had expected, sir. We count at least 300 alien ships approaching, reported Commander Stevens from the sensor station. They will reach our position in approximately 6 hours. Kane felt a cold weight in his stomach. The Third Fleet had only 80 ships to defend the colony world of New Portland. Even with their technological advantages, the humans would be outnumbered almost 4-1. What is the status of civilian evacuation, he asked. Sir, evacuation transports can remove maybe 50,000 people before the aliens arrive, reported Captain Morgan from the communication station. The colony has over 2 million inhabitants. There is no way to evacuate everyone in time. Kane clenched his jaw. The mathematics of the situation were brutal but clear. The human fleet would have to stand and fight, or 2 million innocent people would die. Signal all ships to move into defensive formation around the planet. We hold this system no matter the cost. As the human ships moved into position, Kane called a meeting of his senior officers. The conference room filled with captains and commanders from throughout the fleet. Kane looked at their faces and saw the same mixture of determination and fear that he felt himself. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know the situation, Kane began. We are outnumbered 3-1 by an enemy that has been preparing for this battle for years. However, we have advantages they do not possess. Our weapons are more advanced, our ships are faster, and our crews are better trained. Captain Davis from the destroyer USS Phoenix raised his hand. Sir, what about the intelligence reports regarding alien adaptive defenses? Our missiles might not be as effective as we hope. Kane had been dreading this question. Intelligence reports suggested that the aliens had developed new shield technology, specifically designed to counter human weapons. We will have to adapt our tactics as the battle develops. Our standard missile systems have worked effectively in previous engagements. Commander Harris from the cruiser USS Montana looked skeptical. Sir, perhaps we should consider more aggressive tactics. Hit-and-run attacks or flanking maneuvers might catch them off guard. Absolutely not, Kane replied firmly. We will maintain defensive formation and use proven tactics. This is not the time for experimentation or risky strategies. We stick to what works. After the meeting ended, Kane remained in the conference room alone. He activated his personal computer and reviewed the tactical options one more time. Every simulation showed the same result. Standard human tactics would inflict heavy damage on the alien fleet but would ultimately fail against such overwhelming numbers. Kane thought briefly about Maria Santos and her experimental missile guidance system. The woman had claimed her weapons could adapt to enemy defenses in real time. For a moment he wondered if he had made a mistake in rejecting her ideas. Then he pushed the thought away. Military discipline and proven tactics were what won battles, not wild experiments with untested technology. 3 decks below Kane's office, Maria Santos sat in her temporary quarters and watched the fleet preparations through her small viewport. Ships moved into defensive positions around the planet while fighter squadrons conducted final training exercises. Everyone on the carrier knew that a major battle was coming. Maria had been stripped of her security clearance and official duties, but her personal computer still had access to some fleet communications. She listened to tactical briefings and read status reports with growing alarm. The alien fleet was larger than anything humanity had faced before, and intelligence suggested they had new defensive capabilities. Lieutenant Clark visited her quarters during his off-duty hours. "Ma'am, I wanted to thank you for everything you taught me about weapon systems," he said as he sat down across from her. "Clark, you should not be here," Maria replied. "The Admiral made it clear that I am no longer part of this crew." "Ma'am, with respect, the Admiral might be making a mistake. I have been running simulations with our standard missile systems against the projected alien defenses. Our hit rate drops to less than 20% after the first few minutes of battle." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. Clark, you need to focus on following orders. Use the weapon systems we have and trust in proper military procedures. But ma'am, your adaptive guidance system could change everything. The simulations show hit rates of over 70% even against adaptive defenses. Why are we not using technology that could save lives? Because Admiral Kane believes that unpredictable weapons are too dangerous to use in real combat, Maria said bitterly. He would rather lose a battle following proper procedures than win it using unproven methods. Clark was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, I know I am just a junior officer, but I have seen your work. I know what your system can do. If the battle goes badly, maybe the Admiral will change his mind. Clark, the Admiral has made his decision. My system will never be used on this ship or any other ship in the fleet. You need to accept that and move on. After Clark left, Maria continued to monitor fleet communications. The alien fleet was getting closer, and tension throughout the ship was rising. In a few hours, the battle would begin, and she would watch from the sidelines as good. People died because of Admiral Kane's stubborn refusal to consider new ideas. Maria opened her personal files and looked at the missile guidance code she had spent 3 years developing. The elegant algorithms that could think and adapt like a human mind were useless now. Kane had ordered all official copies deleted, and her personal copy would die with her if the battle went badly. As she sat in her quarters, watching the approaching alien fleet, Maria made a decision that would change the course of the war. She activated her personal communication system and began searching for security vulnerabilities in the ship's computer network. If Admiral Kane would not use her weapons voluntarily, maybe she could find another way to help her fellow humans survive the coming battle. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a thunderstorm breaking over the Tau Ceti system. Admiral Kane watched the tactical display as 300 enemy ships appeared on his screens in perfect formation. War Commander Thexnal had brought the largest invasion force in alien history, and humanity had less than 4 hours to prepare for the battle of their lives. Sir, all civilian evacuation transports are loaded and ready to depart, reported Captain Morgan from her station. We managed to get 60,000 people off the planet, but that leaves over 2 million still on the surface. Kane nodded grimly. The evacuation had moved faster than expected, but nowhere near fast enough. If the human fleet failed to hold the aliens at bay, those 2 million colonists would be massacred. Signal the transports to jump to hyperspace immediately. At least some civilians will survive to tell what happened here. The alien fleet began moving toward the inner system with deadly purpose. Their ships were arranged in a massive wedge formation, designed to concentrate maximum firepower on the human defensive line. Kane had seen this formation before in previous battles, but never with so many ships involved. Sir, request permission to speak with you privately, came a voice from behind Kane. He turned to see Maria Santos, standing at the entrance to the command center. She was no longer wearing her officer's uniform, but instead had on civilian clothes that marked her as a passenger rather than crew. Santos, what are you doing on my bridge? Kane said sharply. You have been relieved of duty and should be preparing for evacuation with the other non-essential personnel. Sir, I request permission to remain aboard and assist with defensive operations, Maria said as she stepped forward. I know our weapon systems better than anyone else on this ship. Kane felt anger rising in his chest. Even now, with an alien fleet bearing down on them, Santos was trying to push her experimental ideas. Santos, your tour of duty is over. Report to the evacuation shuttles immediately. Admiral, please listen to me, Maria said desperately. I have been analyzing the alien approach patterns, and they match the defensive scenarios I programmed into my guidance system. Standard missiles will not be effective against their adaptive shields. That is enough, Santos, Kane snapped. Security escort Lieutenant Commander Santos to the civilian evacuation area. She is not to return to any sensitive areas of this ship. 2 security guards stepped forward and took positions on either side of Maria. She looked around the command center at the officers she had worked with for 3 years. Some of them avoided her eyes while others watched with obvious sympathy. Lieutenant Clark stood at his weapons station and gave her a small nod of encouragement. Admiral, you are making a terrible mistake, Maria said, as the guards began to escort her away. When your standard tactics fail and good people start dying, remember that you had a choice. Kane turned away from her and focused on the tactical display. He could not afford to be distracted by Santos and her unauthorized experiments. The alien fleet would be within weapons range in less than 2 hours, and he needed to prepare his forces for the coming battle. The security guards led Maria through the corridors of the USS Valiant toward the shuttle bay where civilian evacuees were being processed. As they walked, she noticed the increased activity throughout the ship. Crew members were running to battle stations while damage control teams prepared their equipment. Everyone knew that the next few hours would determine the fate of human expansion into space. "Ma'am, I am sorry about this," said one of the security guards as they reached the shuttle bay. "A lot of us know you were just trying to help." Maria nodded and looked around the bay at the dozens of civilians waiting for evacuation. Scientists, researchers, and support personnel who had no role to play in the coming battle. She would be just another refugee fleeing from an alien invasion unless she could find a way to make a difference. "Thank you for your kindness," Maria said to the guards. "I understand you are just following orders." The guards left her with the other evacuees and returned to their regular duties. Maria found a seat near a viewport and watched as the human fleet moved into final defensive positions. 80 ships arranged in 3 defensive lines around the planet New Portland. It was an impressive sight, but she knew it would not be enough against the alien armada. Lieutenant Clark appeared at her side carrying a small data pad. "Ma'am, I brought you some reading material for the trip," he said loudly enough for nearby civilians to hear. Then he leaned closer and whispered, "I delayed the security protocol cancellation. Your access codes are still active for another 6 hours." Maria looked at him in surprise. "Clark, what are you talking about?" "Ma'am, your personal security codes were supposed to be canceled yesterday, but I submitted the paperwork late. As far as the computer system knows, you are still Chief Weapons Officer." Clark handed her the data pad, which contained her personal files, including the complete code for her missile guidance system. "Clark, this is insubordination," Maria whispered back. "You could face court-martial for this." "Ma'am, with respect, if we lose this battle, there will not be anyone left to court-martial me," Clark replied. "Your system is our best hope of survival." Clark left the shuttle bay before Maria could respond. She activated the data pad and confirmed that her security access was indeed still functional. The computer system still recognized her as an authorized user with access to weapons control networks. Admiral Kane had relieved her of duty, but the actual security cancellation had been delayed by Clark's deliberate mistake. Maria looked around the shuttle bay at the other evacuees. They were depending on the fleet to protect them and their families back on the planet. If the standard missile systems failed as she predicted, these people would watch their world burn from the safety of hyperspace. She made a decision that would either save humanity or destroy her career forever. Moving carefully to avoid attracting attention, Maria accessed the ship's computer network through her data pad. Her security codes gave her access to weapons control systems and missile guidance protocols. The network showed that all ships in the fleet were connected through quantum communication links for tactical coordination. The alien fleet was now within extreme weapons range, and the first long-distance shots were being exchanged. Human missiles streaked toward alien ships while enemy plasma bolts lit up the darkness. Maria watched through the viewport as the opening phases of the battle began. On the command bridge, Admiral Kane watched his tactical display with growing concern. The first wave of human missiles had achieved only minimal success against alien defenses. Enemy shields were adapting to human weapons frequencies exactly as intelligence reports had predicted. "Sir, missile effectiveness is down 30% from normal levels," reported Lieutenant Clark from the weapons station. "Enemy shields are learning to counter our guidance systems." Kane clenched his jaw. The battle was barely 5 minutes old, and already his weapons were becoming less effective. "Order all ships to vary their missile frequencies and attack patterns. Do not give the aliens consistent data to work with." "Yes, sir," Clark replied, but his voice lacked confidence. Standard tactical variations would only delay the inevitable adaptation of alien defenses. Down in the shuttle bay, Maria had successfully accessed the fleet weapons network. Her fingers moved quickly across the data pad as she prepared to upload her missile guidance system to the entire human fleet. This was treason by any military definition, but she could not watch her friends and colleagues die because of Admiral Kane's stubbornness. The upload process would take several minutes and would leave digital traces that could be tracked back to her. Once she started, there would be no turning back. Maria would either be remembered as the officer who saved humanity or the traitor who compromised fleet security during battle. She initiated the upload sequence, and watched as her adaptive guidance code began spreading through the weapons network. Ship by ship, her system integrated itself into missile guidance computers throughout the fleet. Admiral Kane would discover what she had done soon enough, but by then it might be too late to stop her. The alien fleet continued its steady advance toward the human defensive line. War Commander Thexnall watched with satisfaction as human missile effectiveness continued to decline. His adaptive shields were working exactly as designed, and soon the humans would be defenseless against his superior numbers. On the USS Valiant, Admiral Kane received a priority alert from his technical staff. "Sir, we are detecting unauthorized modifications to the missile guidance network," reported Commander Williams from the computer system station. "Someone is uploading foreign code into our weapon systems." Kane felt ice form in his stomach. Foreign code in weapon systems during battle could be sabotaged by alien infiltrators. Trace the source immediately and shut down any compromised systems. As his technical staff worked to identify the intrusion, Kane realized with horrible certainty who was responsible. Only one person on his ship had the knowledge and motivation to modify weapon systems without authorization. Maria Santos was implementing her experimental guidance system despite his direct orders to abandon the project. Kane faced a terrible choice. He could shut down the modified systems and court-martial Santos for treason, or he could allow her unauthorized code to remain active and see if it actually worked. The fate of the human fleet hung Maria Santos, crouched behind a storage container in the evacuation shuttle bay, and worked frantically on her datapad. The upload of her missile guidance system was 60% complete, but alarms were already sounding throughout the ship. Admiral Kane's technical staff had detected her intrusion into the weapons network and were actively hunting for the source. Through the viewport, she could see the battle raging in space around the planet. Human ships were taking heavy damage while their missiles seemed to bounce harmlessly off alien shields. 3 destroyers had already been destroyed, and the USS Valiant itself shook from enemy plasma hits that penetrated the defensive grid. Her datapad showed system after system accepting her guidance code. The computer networks of dozens of human ships were now running her adaptive algorithms alongside their standard missile systems. Soon her code would begin learning from the battle and developing countermeasures against alien defenses. "Security alert all decks," came Admiral Kane's voice over the ship's communication system. "Unauthorized computer access detected. All personnel report suspicious activity immediately." Maria knew she had minutes at most before security teams traced the intrusion to her location. Her upload was 75% complete, but the remaining ships would have to wait. She activated the final sequence that would begin real-time learning and adaptation across the modified missile systems. On the command bridge, Admiral Kane watched his tactical display with mounting frustration. Human missile effectiveness had dropped to less than 15% as alien shields adapted to every weapon frequency and attack pattern his fleet could produce. His ships were dying while their enemies seemed invulnerable to conventional weapons. "Sir, we have traced the computer intrusion to evacuation shuttle bay 7. Reported Commander Williams. "The source appears to be Lieutenant Commander Santos using active security codes." Kane felt a surge of rage followed immediately by a terrible realization. Santos had been right about the alien defenses, and her experimental system might be the only way to save his fleet. "How much of the weapons network has been compromised?" he asked. "Sir, approximately 80% of our missile systems are now running modified guidance code," Williams replied. "The intrusion is spreading faster than we can shut it down." Kane faced the most difficult decision of his military career. He could order the immediate shutdown of all compromised weapon systems and fight the aliens with conventional missiles that were proving useless. Or he could allow Santos's unauthorized code to run and hope that her experimental system actually worked in real combat. Another human ship exploded on his tactical display as alien plasma fire overwhelmed its shields. The destroyer USS Berlin broke apart in a brilliant flash that left no survivors. Kane realized that conventional tactics were leading to certain defeat and the massacre of 2 million civilians. "Sir, orders regarding the compromised systems?" Williams asked urgently. Kane took a deep breath and made a choice that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Let the modified systems run. Monitor their performance, but do not shut them down." Williams looked shocked. "Sir, that code could be a virus or sabotage program. It could turn our weapons against our own ships." Commander Williams, I'm giving you a direct order, Kane said firmly. Allow the modified guidance systems to operate and report on their effectiveness. Meanwhile, in Shuttle Bay 7, Maria had completed her upload and was now watching the battle through her data pad's connection to the ship's sensors. Her guidance system was beginning to learn from each missile strike and shield interaction. The code was analyzing alien defensive patterns and developing new attack strategies in real time. The first missiles equipped with her adaptive guidance system began to behave differently from standard weapons. Instead of flying directly at their targets, they followed erratic paths that seemed random and inefficient. Some missiles appeared to miss their targets entirely before suddenly changing course and approaching from unexpected angles. Maria watched with growing excitement as her system demonstrated exactly what she had designed it to do. The missiles were thinking like human pilots rather than following predictable computer algorithms. They feinted, dodged, and maneuvered in ways that confused alien defensive computers. On the bridge of his flagship, War Commander Expelled noticed the change in human missile behavior with growing concern. His tactical computers had been easily predicting encountering human weapons, but now the missiles were acting in completely unpredictable ways. Subleader, the human missiles are no longer following consistent patterns, reported his weapons officer. Our adaptive shields cannot lock onto their guidance frequencies. Expelled studied his tactical display with 4 alien eyes that had evolved to track multiple threats simultaneously. Human missiles that should have been easily intercepted were now penetrating his defensive screens and striking his ships. Increase shield power and run full spectrum analysis on human guidance signals. War Commander, we are detecting no standard guidance signals from the human missiles, his technical officer reported. They appear to be operating under completely unknown control systems. For the first time in the battle, Expelled felt a touch of uncertainty. His intelligence files contained detailed analysis of every human weapon system and tactical doctrine. His fleet had trained for years to counter human technology, but these new missiles were unlike anything in his databases. Back on the USS Valiant, Admiral Kane watched his tactical display with amazement, as human missile effectiveness suddenly increased from 15% to over 60%. Ships that had seemed invulnerable to human weapons were now taking critical damage from missiles that behaved like living creatures. Sir, the modified guidance systems are exceeding all performance projections, reported Lieutenant Clark from the weapons station. Hit rates are increasing with each salvo as the system learns alien defensive patterns. Kane realized that Maria Santos had achieved something that military doctrine said was impossible. Her experimental code was adapting to enemy defenses faster than the aliens could counter-adapt. The unpredictable nature of her guidance system was exactly what made it effective against logical alien computers. Sir, security teams have located Lieutenant Commander Santos in Shuttle Bay 7. Commander Williams reported. She is under arrest for unauthorized access to weapons systems. Kane hesitated for a moment, watching as another salvo of adaptive missiles struck alien ships with devastating effectiveness. Belay that order, Commander. Escort Santos to the bridge immediately. Sir, she is guilty of treason and sabotage during combat operations. Williams protested. She is guilty of saving this fleet and possibly the entire human race, Kane replied. Bring her here now. Security guards escorted Maria through the corridors of the USS Valiant as the ship shook from enemy fire. Other crew members stared at her with mixtures of curiosity and admiration. Word had spread quickly that the former chief weapons officer had somehow turned the tide of battle with unauthorized computer code. When Maria arrived on the bridge, she found Admiral Kane studying tactical displays that showed steadily improving human performance. Alien ships were burning throughout the enemy formation while human losses had dropped dramatically. Santos, you disobeyed direct orders and committed treason by accessing weapon systems without authorization, Kane said without looking away from his displays. Yes, sir, I did, Maria replied simply. I could not watch good people die because of pride and stubborn adherence to failed protocols. Kane turned to face her, and Maria was surprised to see something like respect in his cold blue eyes. Your system is working, Santos. Human missile effectiveness is now over 70% and climbing. How did you do it? Sir, my guidance code learns from each engagement and adapts its tactics accordingly. It thinks like a human pilot but processes information like a computer. The aliens cannot predict or counter its behavior because it incorporates human intuition and irrationality. Kane nodded slowly as he began to understand what Santos had accomplished. Your missiles do not follow logical patterns that alien computers can analyze. Exactly, sir. Human unpredictability is our greatest weapon against species that rely on pure logic and calculation. My system weaponizes human intuition and creativity. Another alien ship exploded on the tactical display as adaptive missiles found weaknesses in its defenses. Kane realized that everything he had believed about military doctrine and proper procedures was being challenged by the reality of alien technology. Santos, can your system be implemented on all remaining ships in the fleet? Kane asked. Sir, the upload is already complete on 90% of our vessels. The system learns faster when it has more ships to gather data from. Within an hour, it will know alien defensive capabilities better than the aliens themselves. Kane looked around his bridge at officers who were watching the conversation with obvious fascination. Santos, you are hereby reinstated as Chief Weapons Officer with immediate effect.
Take control of the adaptive missile systems and show these aliens what human creativity can accomplish. Maria felt tears of relief and gratitude forming in her eyes.
Thank you, sir. I will not let you down. As Maria took her position at the wheel, Maria Santos settled into her familiar position at the weapons control station and felt the USS Valiant systems respond to her touch like a musical instrument. Her adaptive guidance code was now running on 86 ships across the human fleet and learning from every missile exchange with the alien armada. The tactical display showed a battle that was transforming before her eyes. Admiral Kane stood behind her and watched as human missiles began behaving in ways that defied every principle of military engineering. Some weapons flew in wide spiraling patterns that seemed wasteful and inefficient. Others appeared to miss their targets completely before executing impossible turns and striking alien ships from behind. A few missiles actually seemed to wait in space for the perfect moment to attack. Santos explained what I am seeing on this display, Kane said as he pointed to a missile that had just performed a complete loop before hitting an alien cruiser. That weapon just wasted 30 seconds of flight time and burned extra fuel for no apparent reason. Maria smiled as she monitored her system's performance data. Sir, that missile was analyzing the alien ship's defensive patterns and waiting for a gap in their shield rotation. It calculated that the extra fuel cost was worth the guaranteed hit on a critical system. Kane shook his head in amazement. Your missiles are making tactical decisions that would challenge experienced human pilots. That is exactly what they are designed to do, sir. Each missile has access to data from every other missile in the fleet. They learn from success and failure patterns across hundreds of engagements simultaneously. On the alien flagship, War Commander Thexnall watched his tactical display with growing alarm. Human missiles that had been easy targets an hour ago were now penetrating his defenses with increasing frequency. 3 of his heavy cruisers had been destroyed in the past 20 minutes, and damage reports were flooding in from across his fleet. War Commander the Human, missiles are coordinating their attacks in ways we have never observed, reported Subleader Kethvar. They appear to be sharing targeting information and planning joint strikes against our most vulnerable ships. Thexnall's forearms moved rapidly across his control panels as he tried to understand what was happening. Show me detailed analysis of human missile guidance patterns. The tactical display shifted to show individual missile tracks from the past hour of battle. Early in the engagement, human weapons had followed predictable paths that alien computers could easily intercept. Now the same weapons were flying in chaotic patterns that seemed to follow no logic at all. Subleader, are we detecting any central control signals coordinating these missile attacks? Thexnall asked. War Commander, our sensors detect no control signals whatsoever. Each missile appears to be operating independently while somehow maintaining perfect coordination with other weapons. This was impossible according to everything the Zephyrian Alliance knew about human technology. Independent weapons that could coordinate complex attacks without central control were beyond current human capabilities. Yet the evidence was undeniable as another alien ship suffered critical damage from missiles that had approached from 6 different directions simultaneously. Back on the USS Valiant, Maria was monitoring system performance with growing excitement. Her adaptive code had identified 17 different types of alien defensive systems and developed specific countermeasures for each one. Missiles equipped with her guidance system were now achieving hit rates of over 80% against targets that had been nearly invulnerable an hour earlier. Lieutenant, Commander Santos called Captain Morgan from the communication station. I am receiving reports from other fleet commanders requesting information about our improved missile performance. Kane activated the fleet communication system and addressed all human ships simultaneously. This is Admiral Kane to all fleet commanders. Weapons effectiveness improvements are due to implementation of adaptive guidance systems developed by Lieutenant Commander Santos. Full technical details will be transmitted to all ships immediately. Maria began uploading detailed instructions and system specifications to every ship in the fleet. Her code was designed to be easily integrated into existing missile systems, without requiring hardware modifications. Within minutes, ships that had not yet received her guidance system began implementing the adaptive algorithms. The change in battle dynamics was immediate and dramatic. Human missiles throughout the fleet began displaying the same unpredictable behavior that had confused alien defenses. Weapons that had been flying in straight predictable lines suddenly started weaving, dodging, and coordinating attacks like flocks of intelligent birds. Sir, missile effectiveness across the entire fleet is now averaging 78%, reported Lieutenant Clark with obvious excitement. Alien defensive systems cannot adapt fast enough to counter our guidance algorithms. Kane watched as the tactical situation shifted decisively in humanity's favor. Alien ships that had seemed invincible were now burning throughout their formation. The 3-to-1 numerical advantage that had promised alien victory was being neutralized by weapons that thought and learned faster than their targets could defend. War Commander Expelled realized that his carefully planned invasion was falling apart. The humans had somehow developed weapon technology that his intelligence files said was impossible. His adaptive shields, which should have made his fleet invulnerable, were being systematically defeated by missiles that learned faster than his defenses could adapt. War Commander recommend immediate retreat to hyperspace range, suggested Sub-Leader Kethvar as another alien ship exploded under human missile fire. We cannot counter these new human weapons with current technology. Expelled considered the suggestion, but his warrior pride rebelled against retreat. The Zephyrian Alliance had spent years planning this invasion and gathered the largest fleet in their history. Retreat would mean admitting that primitive humans had developed superior technology. Negative. Sub-Leader. Order all ships to focus fire on the human carrier. If we can destroy their command ship, the remaining vessels will lose coordination. The alien fleet began concentrating its attack on the USS Valiant as Expelled hoped to break human morale by killing their admiral. Plasma bolts and energy beams converged on the human flagship as 300 alien ships focused their weapons on a single target. The USS Valiant shook violently as alien fire overwhelmed its defensive shields. Explosions echoed through the ship's corridors and several sections lost power. Kane gripped his command chair as the bridge lights flickered and smoke began filling the air. Sir, hull breaches on decks 5 through 7, reported the damage control officer. Shield generators are operating at 30% capacity. Maria felt the ship shuddering around her but continued monitoring her weapon systems. Her adaptive missiles were learning from the concentrated alien attack and developing new tactics to exploit the enemy's focus on a single target. While the aliens concentrated on the USS Valiant, her missiles were finding gaps in their defensive formations. Sir, the aliens are making a tactical error by concentrating their fire, Maria reported. My system is detecting reduced defensive coverage across their fleet as they focus on attacking us. Kane realized that Expelled was giving humanity exactly the opportunity they needed. Santos, can your missiles exploit the gaps in their defenses? Sir, my system has already identified optimal attack vectors. Recommend launching full missile barrage from all fleet ships immediately. Kane activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Kane. Launch all missiles on my mark. Target of opportunity. Free fire with adaptive guidance. Fire. Thousands of human missiles streaked toward the alien fleet as every ship in the human formation unleashed its full arsenal. The missiles moved like a swarm of intelligent insects seeking weak points in alien defenses. They coordinated their attacks, shared targeting data, and adapted their approach patterns in real time. The result was devastating for the alien fleet. Ships that had concentrated their defenses forward to attack the USS Valiant found themselves vulnerable to missiles approaching from above, below, and behind. Maria's adaptive guidance system had turned the alien tactical error into a catastrophic defeat. War Commander Expelled watched in horror as dozens of his ships suffered critical damage simultaneously. Human missiles had penetrated his defensive formations and were striking at will. His attempt to break human morale by destroying their flagship had instead given them the perfect opportunity to destroy his fleet. "War Commander, we have lost over 60 ships in the past 10 minutes, Kethavar reported with panic in his voice. "The human missiles are coordinating attacks that our defensive systems cannot counter." Thexnell realized that continued battle would result in the complete destruction of his fleet. The humans had developed weapons technology that made his numerical superiority meaningless. For the first time in his military career, he faced enemies who were adapting faster than he could respond. "Signal general retreat to all ships," Thexnell ordered reluctantly. "We withdraw to hyperspace immediately." The alien fleet began turning away from the human defensive line as Thexnell admitted defeat. But Maria's adaptive missiles were not finished with their targets. Her guidance system had learned that retreating enemies were often vulnerable to pursuit attacks, and her weapons followed the aliens as they Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant and watched the alien fleet retreat in disorder as human missiles continued to pursue and destroy enemy ships. Smoke still filled the air from battle damage, but the tactical display showed a victory that had seemed impossible just hours earlier. His technical staff was frantically analyzing the missile guidance, modifications that had turned certain defeat into overwhelming triumph. "Sir, we have completed initial analysis of the adaptive guidance system," reported Commander Williams from the computer station. "The code modifications are extremely sophisticated and could only have been implemented by someone with Lieutenant Commander Santos's level of expertise." Kane turned to look at Maria, who was still coordinating missile attacks against the retreating alien fleet. Her fingers moved across the weapons control interface with practiced precision as she directed hundreds of adaptive missiles in their pursuit of enemy targets. The woman he had dismissed as reckless and insubordinate had single-handedly saved the human fleet. "Commander Williams, provide me with a detailed technical report on Santos's system," Kane ordered. "I want to understand exactly how she accomplished this." Williams activated his display and began explaining the guidance system's operation. "Sir, the core innovation is integrating human decision-making patterns with computer processing speed. Each missile contains algorithms that simulate human pilot intuition while accessing real-time tactical data from across the fleet." Kane studied the technical specifications with growing amazement. Santos had created artificial intelligence that thought like human warriors, rather than logical machines. Her missiles could make creative decisions that confused alien computers programmed to counter predictable human tactics. "Sir, the system learns from every engagement and shares that knowledge instantly across all equipped missiles," Williams continued. "After analyzing alien defensive patterns for an hour, our weapons know enemy capabilities better than the aliens themselves." Kane realized the full magnitude of what Santos had accomplished. She had not just created better missiles, but had weaponized human creativity and unpredictability. Her guidance system embodied everything that made humans effective warriors in ways that alien logic could not comprehend or counter. "Lieutenant Clark, report to my station immediately." Kane called across the bridge. Lieutenant Ryan Clark approached with obvious nervousness. As Santos's former assistant, he had been involved in developing the adaptive guidance system, and Kane suspected he knew more about the unauthorized upload than he had admitted. "Clark, I want the truth about how Santos gained access to fleet weapon systems," Kane said firmly. "Her security codes should have been canceled yesterday." Clark took a deep breath and met Kane's gaze directly. "Sir, I deliberately delayed processing the security cancellation. Lieutenant Commander Santos's codes remained active, because I believed her system might be needed to save the fleet." Kane felt anger rising in his chest but forced himself to consider the results of Clark's insubordination. If the young officer had followed proper procedures, the human fleet would have been destroyed, and 2 million civilians would have died. "Clark, you violated direct orders and endangered fleet security." "Yes, sir, I did," Clark replied without backing down. "I believed that Lieutenant Commander Santos's guidance system was our only hope against alien adaptive defenses. The simulation results clearly showed that standard missiles would be ineffective." Kane studied Clark's face and saw the same determination that had driven Santos to develop her revolutionary weapon system. Both officers had been willing to risk their careers to save human lives. Kane realized that his own rigid adherence to protocol had nearly caused a catastrophic defeat. "Clark, your actions constitute insubordination and violation of security procedures," Kane said slowly. "However, given the results, I am recommending you for promotion rather than court-martial." Clark looked shocked. "Sir, I do not understand." "Clark, you made a decision that saved this fleet and the lives of 2 million civilians. That demonstrates exactly the kind of judgment I want in my senior officers." Kane turned back to the tactical display, where the alien retreat continued under relentless pressure from adaptive missiles. War Commander Thexnell's invasion force had been reduced from 300 ships to less than 200 in a matter of hours. The aliens who had expected easy victory were fleeing in complete disorder. "Santos status report on pursuing missiles," Kane ordered. "Sir, our missiles are maintaining contact with the alien fleet and inflicting continuous damage," Maria reported. "The adaptive guidance system has learned to exploit weaknesses in their retreat formations. Enemy ships attempting to cover the withdrawal are being systematically destroyed." Kane watched as another alien cruiser exploded under coordinated missile attack. Santos's weapons were pursuing the enemy with the relentless efficiency of hunting wolves. They had learned not just how to penetrate alien defenses, but how to predict and exploit alien tactical responses. "Sir, recommend allowing some alien ships to escape," Maria said unexpectedly. Kane looked at her in surprise. "Santos, we have the opportunity to destroy their entire fleet. Why would we let any of them survive?" "Sir, my guidance system learns from combat data and enemy responses. If we destroy every alien ship, they cannot report our new capabilities to other enemy fleets. However, if some ships escape, they will carry inaccurate information about our tactical improvements." Kane began to understand Santos's strategic thinking. Alien survivors would report that humans had developed new missile technology, but they would not understand how the adaptive guidance system actually worked. Future alien preparations would be based on incomplete and possibly misleading information. "Sir, additionally, my system will benefit from analyzing how different alien commanders respond to our tactics," Maria continued. "Letting some ships escape will provide valuable data for future engagements." Kane realized that Santos was thinking several battles ahead, while he had been focused only on the immediate tactical situation. Her adaptive guidance system was not just a weapon, but a learning tool that would grow more effective with each engagement. "Very well, Santos. Reduce pursuit intensity and allow approximately 50 alien ships to escape. I want them to carry word of this defeat back to their commanders." Maria began recalling some of her missiles while maintaining pressure on key alien targets. Her guidance system calculated which enemy ships should be destroyed and which should be allowed to escape with maximum intelligence value. The retreating aliens would carry word that humans had developed revolutionary weapons, but they would not understand the true nature of adaptive guidance technology. War Commander Thexnell stood on his damaged flagship and watched human missiles finally break off their pursuit. His fleet had been reduced to fewer than 200 ships, and many of those were severely damaged. The humans had achieved a victory that should have been tactically impossible. Sub-Leader, prepare detailed reports on human weapon capabilities for transmission to Alliance Command, Thexnell ordered. "Our intelligence files are completely inadequate." "War Commander, what should we report regarding the new human missiles?" Kethavar asked. Thexnell studied his tactical displays showing the chaotic tracks of human weapons during the battle. "Report that humans have developed unpredictable guidance systems that cannot be countered by standard defensive measures. Recommend immediate research into new defensive technologies." As the alien fleet jumped to hyperspace, Kane realized that Santos had given humanity more than just victory in a single battle. Her adaptive guidance system would revolutionize human military capabilities and provide decisive advantages in future conflicts. The woman he had dismissed for insubordination had created the weapon that would secure human expansion into space. "Santos, you have exceeded every expectation and saved countless lives today," Kane said as he turned to face her. "I owe you an apology for my earlier decisions." "Sir, you were following proper military protocol," Maria replied diplomatically. "I understand your concerns about untested technology." Kane shook his head. "Santos, my adherence to protocol nearly caused a disaster. Your willingness to take risks and think beyond established doctrine saved this fleet. I should have listened to your ideas instead of dismissing them." Maria felt a surge of vindication, but also recognition that Kane had ultimately made the right choice when it mattered most. "Sir, the important thing is that we won the battle and protected the colony. My system worked because you gave it the chance to prove itself." Kane looked around his bridge at officers who had witnessed the transformation of human military capability. Santos's adaptive guidance system had demonstrated that human creativity and unpredictability were weapons that alien logic could not counter. Future battles would be fought with missiles that learned, adapted, and evolved in real time. "Santos, you are hereby promoted to full commander and assigned as Chief of Advanced Weapons Development," Kane announced. "You will have unlimited resources to continue developing adaptive systems for the entire fleet." As celebration erupted across the bridge, Kane realized that the battle had taught him valuable. Commander Maria Santos stood at the central tactical station aboard the USS Valiant and watched as her adaptive missile guidance system spread throughout the entire human fleet. Admiral Kane had authorized full implementation across all 80 remaining ships, and the results were transforming human military capability in real time. Her code was learning from dozens of different ship types and tactical situations simultaneously. "Commander Santos, all fleet vessels. Report successful integration of adaptive guidance systems reported." Lieutenant Clark from his communications station. "Ship commanders are requesting detailed operational parameters for optimal performance." Maria activated the fleet-wide communication network and addressed all human ships simultaneously. "This is Commander Santos to all vessels. Your missile systems are now equipped with adaptive guidance that learns from each engagement. Allow the system to make tactical decisions that may seem unconventional. Trust the algorithms to find weaknesses in enemy defenses." Admiral Kane stood beside her and marveled at the transformation he was witnessing. Ships throughout the fleet were reporting missile performance improvements of over 300%, as their weapons began thinking and adapting like human pilots. The rigid tactical doctrine he had defended for years was being replaced by fluid creative warfare. "Santos explained to me how your system coordinates attacks across multiple ships," Kane asked as he studied the tactical display. "Our missiles seem to be communicating with each other without any central control signals." "Sir, each missile contains a complete copy of the adaptive learning database," Maria explained. "When missiles from different ships encounter similar targets, they automatically share tactical solutions through quantum data bursts. The system creates a collective intelligence that grows smarter with each engagement." Kane began to understand the revolutionary nature of Santos's achievement. She had created weapons that not only learned from experience, but shared that knowledge instantly across the entire fleet. Human missiles were becoming more effective, with every shot fired while alien defenses remained static and predictable. "Commander, the system is identifying optimal attack patterns for each ship," Class reported the weapons officer from the destroyer USS Phoenix. "Our missiles are coordinating with other vessels to maximize overall fleet effectiveness rather than individual ship performance." This represented a fundamental shift in military thinking. Traditional tactics focused on individual ship capabilities and predetermined battle plans. Santos's system enabled real-time coordination between hundreds of missiles across dozens of ships without any central command structure. The fleet was becoming a single adaptive organism rather than a collection of separate units. "Sir, incoming priority." Transmission from Admiral Peterson at Fleet Command announced. Captain Morgan from the communication station, Kane, activated the secure communication channel and Admiral Peterson's face appeared on the main screen. Peterson commanded the First Fleet, which was currently engaged with alien forces in the Proxima Centauri system. His expression showed exhaustion and concern. "Douglas, I need to know about the weapon modifications your fleet used at Tau Ceti," Peterson said without preamble. "Intelligence reports indicate you achieved unprecedented missile effectiveness against alien adaptive defenses." Kane gestured for Maria to join the conversation. "Admiral Peterson, this is Commander Maria Santos, who developed our adaptive guidance systems." Santos briefed the Admiral on your weapon modifications. Maria stepped forward and began explaining her technology to Peterson. "Sir, my guidance system integrates human decision-making patterns with artificial intelligence processing. Each missile can analyze enemy defenses and develop creative countermeasures in real time." Peterson listened intently as Maria described the technical specifications and tactical applications of her adaptive missiles. His fleet had been fighting the same type of alien, adaptive defenses that had nearly defeated Kane at Tau Ceti. Standard. Human weapons were proving increasingly ineffective as alien shields learned to counter conventional attack patterns. Commander Santos, how quickly can your system be implemented across my entire fleet? Peterson asked urgently. We are facing 200 alien ships with adaptive defenses, and our missile effectiveness has dropped to less than 10%. Sir, the system can be uploaded and integrated within 30 minutes, Maria replied. However, optimal performance requires several hours of combat data collection, as the algorithms learn enemy defensive patterns. Peterson made his decision immediately. Commander, transmit your guidance system to the First Fleet immediately. We will implement during our next engagement with alien forces. As Maria began uploading her adaptive guidance code to the First Fleet, Kane realized that human military doctrine was changing forever. Santos's system would spread throughout the entire human navy within weeks and transform every aspect of space warfare. Alien forces that had counted on human predictability would face enemies that grew more dangerous with each battle. Admiral Peterson, there is one additional consideration, Maria added. My system works best when missiles from multiple ships coordinate their attacks. I recommend forming your vessels into integrated tactical groups rather than individual ship operations. Peterson nodded, understanding the implication. Commander, we will restructure our battle formations to maximize coordination between adaptive missiles. How many ships per tactical group do you recommend? Sir, optimal performance requires between 8 and 12 ships per group, Maria replied. This provides sufficient missile density for effective coordination while maintaining tactical flexibility. Kane watched as human military strategy evolved in real time. Santos's adaptive guidance system was not just improving weapons performance but changing fundamental approaches to fleet tactics and ship coordination. The rigid hierarchical command structure that had dominated human military thinking was giving way to flexible, adaptive networks. Douglas, keep me informed of additional developments with adaptive weapons, Peterson said before ending the communication. Fleet Command will want detailed performance analysis for fleet-wide implementation. As the communication ended, Kane turned to Maria with newfound respect. Santos, your system is revolutionizing human military capability. Within months, every ship in the fleet will be equipped with adaptive guidance. Sir, the implications extend beyond missile systems, Maria replied. The same adaptive algorithms can be applied to ship maneuvering, defensive systems, and tactical coordination. We are looking at a complete transformation of space warfare. Kane began to envision the possibilities. Human fleets equipped with adaptive systems would be able to counter any alien tactical advantage through real-time learning and creative responses. The static defensive thinking that had nearly cost them the battle at Tau Ceti would be replaced by dynamic adaptive warfare. Commander Santos, you have authorization to establish an advanced weapons development division with unlimited resources, Kane announced. Your primary mission is developing adaptive systems for every aspect of fleet operations. Maria felt excitement building as she considered the research possibilities. Her missile guidance system was just the beginning of what adaptive algorithms could accomplish. Human creativity and unpredictability could be weaponized across every military system, from individual fighters to massive capital ships. Sir, I recommend establishing research partnerships with civilian technology companies, Maria suggested. Adaptive algorithms have applications beyond military systems. Commercial development could accelerate our research timeline. Kane agreed immediately. The civilian technology sector had resources and expertise that could enhance military research programs. Human creativity and innovation were not limited to military applications, and Santos's adaptive systems could benefit from broader technological development. Santos, you have full authority to establish whatever partnerships and research programs you consider necessary, Kane said. The only constraint is maintaining security for critical military applications. As Maria began planning her expanded research program, the USS Valiant received reports from across human space. News of the victory at Tau Ceti was spreading throughout the colonies and encouraging other human forces facing alien attacks. The adaptive missile system was being hailed as the weapon that would secure human expansion into space. Commander, incoming tactical data from the First Fleet engagement at Proxima Centauri, reported Lieutenant Clark. Admiral Peterson's ships are achieving 70% Missile effectiveness using your adaptive guidance system. Kane and Maria watched as real-time battle data showed the First Fleet destroying alien ships with unprecedented efficiency. Peterson's forces had implemented adaptive guidance during active combat and were already demonstrating the system's revolutionary capabilities. Human weapons were learning alien defensive patterns and developing countermeasures faster than enemy forces could adapt. "Sir, the system performance is exceeding all projections," Maria observed as she analyzed the tactical data. Combat experience is providing learning opportunities that laboratory simulations could never replicate. Kane realized that Santos had created more than just a weapon system. Her adaptive guidance technology represented a new form of warfare where human creativity and alien logic were locked in an evolutionary arms race. The side that could adapt and learn 6 months. After the battle at Tau Ceti, Commander Maria Santos stood in the newly constructed Advanced Weapons Research Facility aboard the USS Valiant and watched tactical displays showing human victories across the galaxy. Her adaptive missile guidance system had been implemented throughout the entire human fleet and was delivering unprecedented success against alien forces. The Zephyrian alliance that had once threatened to destroy human civilization was now retreating on every front. Admiral Kane entered the research facility and found Maria coordinating with development teams working on next-generation adaptive systems. Her small experimental project had grown into a massive research program, employing hundreds of scientists and engineers. The woman he had dismissed for insubordination was now the most important weapons developer in human military history. Commander Santos' status report on current fleet operations. Kane requested as he approached her workstation. "Sir, human forces are reporting average missile effectiveness of 85% across all engagements," Maria replied while displaying fleet-wide performance statistics. "Alien adaptive defenses are no longer capable of countering our guidance systems. Our weapons learn faster than their shields can adapt." Kane studied the tactical summaries with satisfaction. Human fleets that had struggled against alien technology 6 months earlier were now achieving decisive victories with minimal losses. The adaptive guidance system had transformed the strategic balance and given humanity clear superiority in space warfare. "Commander, your system has revolutionized human military capability," Kane said with genuine admiration. "Fleet Command estimates that adaptive weapons have saved over 50,000 lives by reducing battle casualties." Maria felt pride in her accomplishment, but also recognition that the work was far from finished. "Sir, the current system is just the beginning of what adaptive algorithms can achieve. My research teams are developing applications for ship maneuvering defensive systems and tactical coordination." Kane nodded as he reviewed progress reports from various research projects. Santos had established development programs that extended far beyond missile guidance systems. Her adaptive algorithms were being applied to every aspect of space warfare and producing revolutionary improvements in human military capability. "Sir, incoming priority communication from Fleet Admiral Harrison at Earth Command," announced Lieutenant Clark, who had been promoted to Maria's chief technical assistant. Kane activated the secure communication channel and fleet. Admiral Harrison appeared on the main display. Harrison commanded all human military forces and rarely contacted individual ships unless the matter involved highest-level strategic concerns. "Admiral Kane, Commander Santos, I am calling to personally congratulate you on the decisive victory at Tau Ceti and the subsequent development of adaptive weapon systems," Harrison began. "Your innovations have fundamentally altered the strategic situation in our favor." Kane gestured for Maria to respond. "Admiral Harrison, thank you for your recognition. The adaptive guidance system has exceeded all performance projections and continues to evolve with each engagement." Harrison leaned forward with obvious interest. "Commander Santos' Fleet Command wants to accelerate the implementation of adaptive systems throughout all military branches. Your technology has applications beyond space warfare that could benefit ground forces and planetary defense systems." Maria had been hoping for exactly this opportunity. "Sir, my research teams have developed adaptive algorithms for atmospheric combat vehicles and defensive installations. The same principles that make space missiles unpredictable can be applied to any weapon system. Commander, you have unlimited authorization to expand your research program to support all military branches," Harrison announced. "Earth Command is establishing the Advanced Adaptive Systems Division with you as director. Your mission is developing next-generation adaptive technology for the entire human military. Kane watched with satisfaction as Maria received the recognition she deserved. The woman who had been expelled from his ship for insubordination was now being placed in charge of humanity's most important military research program. Her willingness to challenge established doctrine had saved human civilization. Admiral Kane, your decision to implement Commander Santos's system during the battle at Tausati demonstrated exactly the kind of adaptive leadership our military needs, Harrison continued. You are hereby promoted to Fleet Admiral and assigned as Strategic Commander for all operations against the Zephyrian Alliance. Kane felt shock at his unexpected promotion, but realized that Harrison was recognizing his willingness to embrace innovative tactics when conventional approaches had failed. His decision to trust Santos' experimental system had proven that rigid adherence to protocol could be more dangerous than creative risk-taking. Admiral Harrison, thank you for this recognition, Kane replied. Commander Santos deserves full credit for developing the technology that made our victory possible. Harrison smiled. Admiral Kane, the technology was important, but your decision to implement it during active combat was equally crucial. Many commanders would have chosen familiar failure over uncertain innovation. As the communication ended, Kane reflected on the lessons learned during the past 6 months. Military doctrine and established procedures remained important, but they could not be allowed to prevent adaptation to new threats. Santos had shown that human creativity and unpredictability were weapons that could overcome any technological disadvantage. Commander Santos, you have transformed human military capability and saved countless lives, Kane said as he turned to face her. I owe you an apology for initially rejecting your ideas. Sir, you made the right decision when it mattered most, Maria replied diplomatically. Your willingness to trust experimental technology during battle showed true leadership. Kane appreciated her diplomatic response, but knew that his initial rejection of her ideas had nearly caused disaster. Santos, I learned valuable lessons about innovation and leadership from our experience. Rigid thinking in the face of adaptive enemies is a path to defeat. Maria nodded, understanding Kane's recognition of the broader implications. Sir, the aliens made the same mistake by assuming human predictability. They developed countermeasures for conventional tactics, but could not adapt to creative approaches. As they spoke, tactical reports continued flowing in from human forces across the galaxy. The adaptive missile system was achieving success rates that exceeded all theoretical projections. Alien fleets that had dominated space warfare for decades were being systematically defeated by weapons that learned and evolved faster than their defenses could counter, Commander. Your system is approaching true artificial intelligence, Kane observed as he studied performance data. The missiles are making tactical decisions that surprise even experienced human commanders. Sir, the system incorporates human intuition and creativity but processes information faster than biological minds, Maria explained. Each missile has access to combat experience from thousands of previous engagements while maintaining the unpredictability that confuses alien computers. Kane began to understand the revolutionary nature of Santos's achievement. She had created artificial intelligence that thought like humans rather than machines. Her adaptive systems embodied everything that made humanity effective in warfare while eliminating the limitations of biological processing speed. Commander, what are the implications for future military development? Kane asked. Sir, adaptive algorithms will eventually be integrated into every human weapon system, ship design, and tactical doctrine, Maria replied. We are moving toward completely adaptive military forces that can counter any alien advantage through real-time learning and creative responses. Kane envisioned human fleets equipped with fully adaptive systems, engaging alien forces across the galaxy. Every ship, missile, and defensive system would learn from combat experience and share that knowledge instantly throughout the fleet. Human military forces would become more effective with each battle while alien capabilities remained static, Sir. Incoming tactical data from the offensive against the Zephyrian home system, reported Lieutenant Clark. Admiral Peterson's Second Fleet is achieving complete tactical superiority using full-spectrum adaptive systems. Kane and Maria watched as real-time battle data showed human forces overwhelming alien defenses with unprecedented ease. The Zephyrian alliance that had once threatened human Extinction was being systematically defeated by weapons that embodied human creativity and adaptability. Commander, your adaptive systems have given humanity decisive, strategic advantage, Kane observed. The aliens who counted on our predictability are now facing enemies that grow stronger through adversity. Maria felt satisfaction at seeing her vision realized, but also recognition that greater challenges lay ahead. Sir, other alien civilizations will learn from Zephyrian defeats and develop new countermeasures. We must continue advancing adaptive technology to maintain our advantage. Kane agreed completely. Military technology was an evolutionary arms race where the side that stopped innovating would eventually be defeated. Santos's adaptive systems had given humanity temporary superiority, but that advantage